What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. We're gonna talk about the ranged Holy Paladin build today. First of all, look at how badass this chick looks. God, I love plate characters and their T-Mogs. This is just like a couple items I picked up with the artifact weapon, of course, for Holy Paladin. I have a bunch of those, but this looks so cool. She looks fucking badass already. All right, listen. Let's talk about Holy Paladin. Let's talk about it because this has been a big problem, right? People have been asking, like, Zuko, I've heard a couple people asking, is there a ranged build for Holy Paladin? Because in the talent tree, it looks like there's supposed to be, but, like, people are just going back to, like, Shakadin. Is there actually a ranged build? Let's talk about that right now. Number one, my first major point here is to say that I don't think there's as much of a separation in this talent tree as we think there is. So, like, it isn't just, like, go left and get Shakadin, go right and get ranged Holy Paladin, whatever that means. It's not that simple. It's just not. I'm using Bestow Faith in my Mythic Plus dungeons. I'm not running Mythic Plus yet, of course. I'm just hitting level 70 almost on my Pally, but Bestow Faith is so good in Mythic Plus because it obviously goes into beacon healing and it generates holy power. It's really, really good. Obviously, Holy Shock's really good. I want Light's Hammer. I take Light's Hammer on both builds, mostly for damage. Light's Hammer is a crazy amount of damage. I take 2 charges of Crusader Strike because realistically, when you're kind of filling out this tree, there aren't too many like better options for you. You might as well just go with the extra Crusader Strike mostly because it gives you holy power. I'm getting Divine Toll because it's a lot of damage as well. This is like one of the best ways to do damage. Instant cast 5 target Holy Shocks. That's a lot of damage that you're getting in one GCD. So it's very, very good that way. But then I can also come over here and I can grab Tower of Radiance. Casting Flashlight or Holy Light on your beacon gives you 1 holy power. That's very, very good. And then I can pick up Barrier of Faith and Tears Deliverance, the 2 new cooldowns I'm going to talk about. I can also get Inflorescence down here, whilst also getting Awakening, which is traditionally kind of a Shakadin thing, right? Where you're trying to just get into wings. The new combo for like the Shakadin build is to go Avenging Crusader plus Awakening. I talked about that in my other build. So with this build, you're doing the regular Avenging Wrath. You get the crit by 20%, which is really good. But you can still take Awakening because getting wings is good. So my very first point here is to simply say that try not to look at the Holy Paladin tree as like, I'm going left for this or I'm going right for this, and I can't mix and match. Really, it's more of a mashing of the two. And a big reason for that is, of course, the passive that Holy Paladin has, which is Infusion of Light. Your critical Holy Shocks reduce the cost of your next Flash of Light by 60% or cause your next Holy Light to generate 1 holy power. This is really important to use in the dungeon, and I think in Shadowlands, we very much got used to just this pure Shakadin gameplay style where we never really used our infusion procs. Why? Because we got Divine Toll. And it just made this perfect build where we could just focus on pressing Holy Shock and we would get Crusader's Might, right? So Holy Shock and you get Glimmer and you get all that stuff going and you don't ever have to actually use your Infusion of Light procs, which I'm getting right here. Now, with this range build, you can get Inflorescence, which gives you 2 of those Infusion of Light procs, and you're very much incentivized to use them. I think I would just use Holy Light here. What I think you're going to end up doing in a dungeon environment is you're going to run the melee style. You're still going to focus on having, Crusader Strike. You're still going to be using Holy Shocks and Divine Toll. You're still going to be trying to get Awakening procs to have wings up so then you can do more damage and more healing. But you're going to mix in some of this range style. And you can mix in Holy Lights, and it's okay to do that. It actually doesn't feel that bad at all. And when we get to the damage portion of the video, I'll explain why. But just know right off the bat that this ranged build is never just going to be a pure, like, stand back with the book open and just cast Holy Light over and over and over again. Like, it's not just going to look like that because that's not realistically what you're going to be able to do in Mythic Plus. You can't just stand there with the book out and press Holy Light. You're going to have to do damage. If you're a healer in World of Warcraft nowadays, you have to do damage. So that's okay. you're still going to be in melee. You're still going to be doing lots of damage, but you're going to get to incorporate some of these ranged bonuses in here as well, and I think they're really, really cool. So just get your head wrapped around that initial idea that the ranged build for Holy Paladin doesn't mean you're standing back in Timbuk 4 just pressing Holy Light. That's not what you're going to be doing. You still need to incorporate the other parts of the build, like Holy Shock, like Crusader Strike, to build some extra holy power, and they're all multiple pieces of one big build, okay? Keep that in mind. Number 2, damage for Holy Paladin, in my opinion, now is much less reliant on Crusader Strike. I think it's just less reliant on Crusader Strike in general. Let me just pop over here. We'll get this going so you guys can watch something in the background. So let me explain why it's less reliant on Crusader Strike. Basically, an important thing to note is that Crusader Strike doesn't do a ton of my overall damage. So I have a chart with my overall damage right here. I'm looking at it right now, and it ends up being Consecration, then Judgment, then Holy Shock, then Light's Hammer, then my melee, then a Trinket, and Crusader Strike's like after that. Crusader Strike ended up doing like 6% of my damage overall. But you can see that the bulk of your damage, guys, will be coming from Consecration and Judgment and talents like Light's Hammer. Light's Hammer is really good AoE damage. It's really, really strong. Oh, let me just turn the volume up here on this. I think I had it muted. Maybe it's muted the whole time. Doesn't matter. Just background footage there. But really, your damage does not rely on you pressing Crusader Strike every single GCD that it's up. You don't have to maximize the output of Crusader Strike. First of all, it costs a ton of mana. Crusader Strike versus other spells it costs 3,200 mana. Sorry, 4,200 mana. My Judgment's 1,200 mana. Consecration costs no mana, and it does like 4 times more damage than Crusader Strike. Holy Shock does cost more than Crusader Strike, but that also counts as a heal, right? So it's versatile. My point here is simply to say that just because you're the melee healer and you do have to do some damage, you can do the ranged playstyle and replace some of your Crusader Strike GCDs with Holy Light or Flash of Light, and you will not lose basically anything at all. Don't think for a second that you're losing all your damage because you're not pressing Crusader Strike, and instead you're going to sit there and press Holy Light, which is a much, much more efficient spell, better at generating potentially more holy power for your build with the Inflorescence procs. There's so many things that Holy Light does really, really well that Crusader Strike actually can't do. And you have to make this decision between, if you're going to do this range style, you're still doing some melee stuff, like putting Consecration down in melee, putting Light's Hammer down, throwing out Judgments, throwing out Holy Shocks, throwing out big Divine Tolls. You're doing all that for damage. But when it comes to really big Giga Chad healing, if you're doing the ranged build, you will have way more throughput. You will have way more throughput on healing because you're pressing these huge buttons like Holy Light, which is an absolute bomb and can be comboed with things like Resplendent Light, which makes it heal up to 5 targets for 8% of its healing, which is really, really cool. It obviously generates extra holy power because of Tower of Radiance, which is really good. And then Holy Light and Flash of Light are going to feed into 2 of the new big cooldowns that you're going to get as the ranged style. And we're going to talk about those right now. So I just want to cap that off by saying that don't worry about your damage of Crusader Strike. You can do damage with these other buttons. In fact, they end up always doing way more damage. Consecration, Light's Hammer, your Judgment, and your melees just do lots of damage. You don't have to press Crusader Strike all the time. It's okay to press Holy Light. Let's move on to the 2 big abilities that are coming in for the range style, okay? Number 1 is going to be Barrier of Faith. This is a really interesting button, and I tried to press it on cooldown if I could for the tank. The problem in the dungeon footage here is that nobody ever takes any damage, basically, so it's a little bit hard to gauge how good it is. But I would say, in my experience playing this over a couple of dungeons now, this is very valuable, and I can't wait to try this week in Mythic Plus. I'm absolutely going to be trying this build this week in Mythic Plus, so stay tuned for more videos on that as well. This is just kind of an intro to this style, but Barrier of Faith gives somebody a shield for 12 seconds, and then for the next 24 seconds, the barrier will accumulate healing that you do from your Flash of Light or Holy Light spells. So what's really cool is you can barrier one enemy over here, and then you can Flash of Light or Holy Light a different enemy over here, and as long as the it actually heals them. You can't just throw out Flash of Light and it do no healing. It has to actually heal somebody. Your barrier on the first guy will accumulate some of the healing that you did as a shield. So it's kind of like a beacon. It's like another beacon for Paladin. So you know your beacons obviously will share healing that you do to other people. This is the exact same thing. It just builds up a barrier. So this is literally perfect for tanks. You throw this on the tank, and then you just heal everybody else, and it builds this shield up on the tank, and it continuously keeps shielding the tank. And also, if you happen to have your beacon on the tank, you're going to be healing the tank as well because you're healing other people. So, again, it's this style of Paladin. It's very Paladin-esque, where it's like, I put something over here, and it does something over here, and something very, very valuable. Now, this is a low cooldown ability, 30-second cooldown. And the healing, like the accumulation of the shield for Barrier Faith can go up to 24 seconds. So this is a very cool spell. It requires you, though, to press Holy Light or Flash of Light as you're healing. So again, you're replacing some of your Crusader Strike GCDs, most likely, with Holy Light and Flash of Light. And that's okay. It'll be worth it because you're going to get so much throughput out of an ability like this. Okay, that's the first really cool ability. Number 2 is Tyr's Deliverance. This is the Legion artifact ability coming back. It's very exciting to have it back, and it now has an enormous new buff attached to it. So the initial ability says that it heals 5 injured allies instantly, and then 1 injured ally every 0.9 seconds for 10 seconds within 20 yards. So it smart heals people. It finds the people who are injured and continuously heals them for, mine says 2100 right now. So here's what's interesting about this. All of the healing out of Tyr's Deliverance, of course, goes into your beacon healing. And then it also says allies healed by Tyr's Deliverance also receive 25% more healing from your Holy Light and Flash of Light, which is insane. So this is like a huge bomb you can put on the team for when you take a crazy amount of damage. You put this, you just fire off Tyr's Deliverance on anybody, and then it hits your whole team in Mythic Plus. And then you start casting Flash of Light or Holy Light on those targets. It'll be 25% more effective. And there's one other amazing thing. You can take the talent down below, which is called Boundless Salvation. Casting Flash of Light or Holy Light on targets affected by Tyr's Deliverance extends Tyr's Deliverance. Now, if you're using Holy Light, it's 5 seconds. Flash of Light's 2.5 seconds. So Holy Light is really the one you want to be using, in my opinion. So Tyr's Deliverance, here's the kicker. Tyr's Deliverance can be extended up to 50 seconds. The base duration of Tyr's Deliverance is 10 seconds, so you can get it up to a 1-minute duration. So you can essentially fire off Tyr's Deliverance. It hits your whole Mythic Plus team, and then every other GCD or every third GCD, press Holy Light. And your Holy Light will extend Tyr's Deliverance for to up to 50 seconds. You just have to keep it rolling. So you can throw in a Holy Shock to get the crit bonus, to get the infusion proc, and then throw out a Holy Light, and then do a Crusader Strike, and then throw out a Holy Light, and then put your Consecration back down again, and then throw out a Holy Light. And again, you're just pot healing whoever's injured, and that's going to keep the Tyr's Deliverance buff going and healing people. It's going to keep Tyr's Deliverance healing people for 50 freaking seconds. And then all that healing also goes into Beacon. So, if you're running Beacon of Faith, for example, you have 2 beacons out, which I'm running in this video, then you only really have to heal the other 3 people. And it's it's just insane. They've really nailed the Paladin fantasy of I do something here, and I do something here, and I do something over there, and it does something over there, and it does something over there. It's I have my 2 beacons are out. I'm going to throw down a Bestow Faith on somebody. That's going to go off in a second. And it's going to heal all 3 of them. I'm going to put a Barrier of Faith over here. And then I'm going to Holy Light somebody over here. Oh, everybody's dying. I'm going to press Tyr's Deliverance on everybody. And then go Holy Light there, Holy Light there, Holy Light there, every other GCD or so. And everybody's just going to keep getting full heal with these big pot shots of healing that are going to echo into my beacons. And all my cooldowns are just doing exactly what a Paladin would kind of want them to do. So these cooldowns are very, very exciting. Barrier of Faith and Tyr's Deliverance. They're super cool. They fit the thematic, Paladin archetype that you want. Again, they did not give Paladin, the ranged Paladin build is not like turning it into a Resto Druid or a Holy Priest, where they have, suddenly we have a whole bunch of hots that were like spreading all over the place in a raid. Nope, that is not here. What you do have is more of the Paladin theme getting amplified even better, and it kind of turns the entire Paladin theme into one big cooldown, which is Tyr's Deliverance. But Barrier of Faith is that extra tank cooldown that you're getting as well. And you can cap it all off on the bottom of the talent tree with Inflorescence of the Sunwell, which was the legendary that we had in Shadowlands, which gives your Infusion of Light proc 1 additional charge, and then it reduces the cost of Flash of Light by an additional 30%. And Holy Light gets an additional 30% chance to generate Holy Power, which is insane because their chances to do that are already insane. My what's the chance right now? Yeah, it's 60%. This could be with the buff right now. It probably is with the buff. So the chance to get those extra effects are really, really high. So the range build, I think, is actually really interesting, and it's something, again, I'm going to test it in a real Mythic Plus environment in this week. I'm going to see if it has legs. One thing that it has is sort of too much healing. It actually has too much healing. So what that means you can do basically is you can be more liberal with your DPS windows. You can just choose to do tons of damage. The melee style, which is focused on Holy Shock, has to be more careful about how they're using their damage and healing spells. Because if you throw out your Divine Toll to do damage as a Shockadin, it's going to do lots of extra damage because you get those glimmers going. But then you're missing your major cooldown that you need to heal your entire group if things go really wrong. I'm not saying there's no other buttons for Shockadin, but like, the point is, Divine Toll kind of is your big button. The ranged Holy Paladin build has Barrier of Faith and Tyr's Deliverance, which can both really help you in a pinch. And they get Divine Toll, and they don't care. So it feels to me, honestly, like with this range style, you can use Divine Toll more liberally because you've got big heals coming from Holy Light because you're not pressing Crusader Strike as much. Those Holy Lights are going to splash with Resplendent Light, and then they're also extending Barrier of Faith and extending Tyr's Deliverance. So, like, you have healing that you're going to be pressing, so you might as well just spend your other abilities on damage. And it felt more free to me. I felt less constrained as the range build, which is really, really exciting. So that was really cool. Yeah. On the whole, I think the range build... Let me skip ahead here to the final boss. Oh, we already killed him. Oh, back up. On the whole, I think that the range build is actually really exciting. Let me just review a couple of things. Number one, it's not as static. It's not as, like, you know, left side, right side, as I used to think it was. These two builds, the melee sort of Shockadin and the range style, they're not at odds with one another. They can work together, actually, to form a really, really cool build somewhere in the middle. And that's what I'm going to be exploring in this week, is trying to figure out how do these ranged abilities fit in? When do I need to use them? Because they're actually really cool. Number two, the damage is not as dependent on Crusader Strike, so you do not have to worry about replacing the Crusader Strike GCDs with Holy Light and Flash of Light. You're still going to always press Judgment and Holy Shock and, you know, your Divine Toll and all those other buttons. Those are important to press, but Crusader Strike's the one that you can replace, and I don't think you're going to miss it, I promise. In Mythic Plus, you're not going to miss it that much. On top of that, these two new cooldowns, Barrier of Faith and Tyr's Deliverance, hit like an absolute truck, and they really fit into the theme of being a paladin. I love the way they feel. I love how you can extend them with Holy Light and Flash of Light. I think it all fits really well together, and I'm really excited to take this build into Mythic Plus this week and give you guys some more videos on how that's going to look. So stay tuned for those videos. Thank you so much again for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you guys. Yeah, this build is actually looking really fun. I'm excited about it. So let me know what you think in those comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.